Thank you, Joyce and Bob. For those of you who have been here in December, today's service is going to be similar to the Deck the Halls experience. For the rest of you, that means in a few minutes, we're going to dismiss and go to workshops for about 20 minutes and then return to close in the sanctuary. But what we're going to do first is Mardys, Peter, and I are going to give brief promotional advertisements for your workshop options. And then you can choose which ones you want to attend. The titles are listed in your order of service and the locations. Okay, Mardys.
Gun violence, mental illness. Both issues have shattered the peace of both my husband's and my family over the years. So when the two issues exploded tragically together last year in Newtown, Connecticut, with Adam Lanza's massacre of children and their teachers, my soul cringed and cried. Suddenly, the public cared about gun violence and mental health. For once, the National Rifle Association and the right wing felt unusually pressured to take a stance. Unfortunately, since the killer was a person with mental illness, the right-wing activists were able to take advantage of society's ignorance about mental illness and use it to create a scapegoat for the violence that is facilitated by America's lethal love of guns. Should I be happy that America might finally pay a little more money for mental health care? I was very cautiously optimistic. Should I be outraged that this would allow us to avoid real solutions for gun violence in America? Absolutely. 8 months later, does action still need to be taken on both fronts? Truly, it does. Our faith calls upon us to respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person. With 30,000 Americans dying yearly as a result of civilian gun violence and untold numbers of people suffering and dying from mental illness, our faith calls upon us to act. As James said in the Bible, the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. Now is the time for us to listen, learn, and act our faith on both mental health and on gun violence.
Our congregation is a participant in the UU Pennsylvania Legislative Action Network, referred to as UU Plan. And one of the areas that group is addressing this year is economic justice. Our UU principles of respect for the dignity of all and for the democratic process call us to extend the principles of justice to the economic sphere. We join the struggle to assure that all Pennsylvanians have the basic means of survival, access to living wage work, and the right to organize for justice and dignity on the job. UU Plan has two teams engaged in this struggle for economic justice. One addresses basic human needs. Despite the legislature's abolition of general assistance, or GA, last year, we continue to advocate with allies for meeting the basic needs of all Pennsylvanians. Our most current issue is to oppose the expansion of exploitative lending to the poor by so-called payday lending operators. This campaign, led by the PA Stop Payday Lending Coalition, requires urgent attention to persuading Pennsylvania Senate to block the most recent efforts to push through enabling legislation. The second area and that's the one we'll be concentrating on today, we'll be discussing today's Restaurant Workers' Justice Campaign. We launched a partnership with the Restaurant Opportunities Centre, or ROC, a nationwide grassroots organising project combined with the UU Service Committee, or UUSC, to advance economic justice for this key sector of the workforce. Together with the workers and allies, we'll work for raising the federal minimum wage for tip workers, which has remained at $2.13 for its recent anniversary of 22 years. The National Restaurant Owners Association, often referred to as the other NRA, lobbies to ensure that this does not change.
Many states are busily passing laws to restrict access to abortion and are likely forcing the Supreme Court to revisit the Roe v. Wade decision of 1973. I have an interesting and unique connection to reproductive justice. From 1968 to 1978, the first 10 years of my life, I lived on Cactus Lane in Dallas, Texas. Norma McCorvey, aka Jane Roe, lived down the street with her partner, Connie Gonzalez. It would have been interesting to have known her, but during that time, she was still anonymous. And I only learned of this connection about 10 years ago. But that was the neighbor that my sister and I weren't allowed to interact with. So that was odd. When reproductive rights are discussed in the media, the discussion is usually about pro-life versus pro-choice positions on the availability of abortion services. But the issue of choice starts much earlier than that. It's clouded by inadequate healthcare system, poor educational opportunities, intimate partner violence, and financial insecurity. And those are the issues we will talk about in the reproductive justice workshop. So now you've heard the three options, and try to decide what you want to do. But first,
I didn't share this joy, but one of my joys this morning was to watch Joyce walk down this to her seat. Exactly. She'll be in our soccer team next year. And I just want to take a quick chance to plug something I didn't get a chance to in our breakout. First of all, I made an offer to everybody, not just the group, that if you're willing to discuss this document, it's called the Rock Diner's Guide to Ethical Eating with a restaurant owner of your choice, see me afterwards. And the other thing is, the book that we referenced is called Behind the Kitchen Door, is actually going to be read by the book club in November, meeting on November the 29th at 7:30. So everybody's welcome to A, read the book, and B, come to that meeting. Having plugged that, let's move on. This section is just, the three of us are just going to share some thoughts about service and justice. When we see on TV the plight of destitute people all around the world, our hearts generally go out to them, and we may be moved to open our wallets. When we prepare and serve food to the homeless, as a group from the Hunger Task Force would have done yesterday, the impact on both them and us is more immediate and hopefully lasting. So a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of being invited by the youth of our church, we refer to as the Yuckies, to join their one-week mission trip. This was part of the Appalachian Service Project, which is a large Christian-led program to help people in need in Tennessee and Virginia Appalachia region. I don't want to steal the Yuckies' thunder, because as I hope they will have an opportunity in the near future to give a much more extensive presentation to the congregation on their experience of that project. But I thought I would give you a taste of my experience as it was very relevant to today's topic. Our living arrangements on the project would be considered very basic. living in a local church, sleeping on the floor, 3 substantial but pretty terrible meals a day, cold showers, actually for the kids, no TV, no entertainment except what they could make themselves. But we had water, we had power, we had air conditioning, and we had light. Air conditioning? Yes. In fact, it was too cold, but never mind. Heckling is allowed. The client that my team worked with was a lady named Becky, or Nana, as we all came to call her by the end of the week. To get to Nana's place, you drive down a familiar highway with gas stations and grocery stores and restaurants, all the things you would see driving around here. But you turn off the highway and you drive up the mountain for a couple of miles and you're in a different world. 10 weeks ago, Nana was living in a one-room shack that she liked to tell us this story she built 20 years ago using a chainsaw. Hard to imagine. No running water. The way she got water, it was hauled up the hill once a week in multiple large 5-gallon cans. No electricity, a leaking roof. She had a cut-down 45-gallon drum in the yard. That was her bath, filled with cold water, of course. Our team had the benefit of working on the last week of a 7-week project to turn Nana's shack into a home with solid insulated walls and roof, with a well where it was going to be dug the week after we left, electricity, a kitchen and a bathroom. The refrigerator arrived just as we were leaving. I hope our youth took away many messages from the experience. I know I did. In particular, I realize how lucky I am in my very comfortable and secure life. I realize that we do not have to go far off of the familiar highway to find people in need. I realize that participating in an immediate physical act of kindness is just as important as writing a check. And most importantly and rewarding, getting to meet the hopeful, grateful Nanas of this world is deeply humbling.
I remember the first time I was asked if I was pro-life or pro-choice. It was in a class in high school. I was one of 25 very uncomfortable teenagers. I didn't know how to answer that question then, and frankly, I still don't. I don't like the question. But one thing has become clear to me. All of the issues that we've talked about today, it didn't really matter which workshop you went to, they're all connected. Poverty, inadequate health care, and violence impact many social issues. Rather than argue about the symptoms of the ills in our communities, abortion rates, drug abuse, violence, I'd rather use our collective power to address the causes of these ills. If we truly try to reduce hunger, fear, and despair, If we truly tried to reduce hunger, fear, and despair, would we build the world we dream about?
We are a justice-seeking people, so the song says. In accordance with that, at UUCDC, we claim to be a welcoming congregation. But how proactively do we show our welcome to all marginalized people? Are we angry enough to take action? Or does giving lip service through song placate our desire for justice? Are we loving enough to include all people in our web of connection? How do we extend our welcome to include a broader range of neighbors. Most of us believe that all marginalized people need help, and most of us also believe that the needs of all of us are truly intertwined. Yet, if we are to understand each other and our diverse life issues, we must disentangle ourselves from the whole for a moment, examine the differences, and then proactively weave them into our tapestry. So this year, we will examine mental health, the reduction of gun violence, women and their struggles for reproductive freedom, underpaid workers, race, and LGBTQ issues. Then we will weave the issues together to become one stronger congregation. We hope you will all join us. If we are to become a gentle, loving people, we must embrace the young, the old, the black, the white, the poor, the rich, the mentally healthy, the mentally challenged, and more. Together, we will move forward to create a more inclusive and safer society. Together, we have the power to make it so.